It's the summer of 1456. For 19 grueling days, the fate of Europe hangs on the walls of a single city. A massive Ottoman army, 100,000 strong, seasoned from decades of conquest, is at the gates, ready to sweep through Hungary and beyond. Cannons roar, cavalry thunder, and a Sultan who swallowed much of the Balkans is determined to crush the last barrier to Europe. Inside the city, roughly 7,000 defenders, a mix of Hungarian soldiers, local militia, and even townspeople, outnumbered more than 14-1, hold the line against what seems like an unstoppable force. On paper, Belgrade should have fallen in days. But what happened over the next few weeks didn't just save a city. It stopped the Ottomans from sweeping into Christian Europe and turned a small fortress into a symbol of courage and resistance that still echoes today. Welcome to Heroic History, where we uncover the incredible stories, hidden tactics, and human courage that shaped the world. Hit subscribe and join our growing community of history lovers. So let's ask, what clever strategies turned Belgrade into an impenetrable fortress? How did leadership, discipline, and determination allow 7,000 men to repel 100,000? And why did this small victory protect all of Christian Europe from Ottoman conquest? Let's find out. It came just 3 years after Constantinople fell in 1453, shaking Europe to its core. Sultan Mehmed II had not wasted a single moment. That victory didn't just topple the Byzantine Empire, it removed a critical buffer for Christian Europe. Suddenly, the way north and west was clear, at least in theory. Mehmed's ambitions were enormous. He moved quickly, annexing the Despotate of Morea and the Empire of Trebizond, consolidating the Ottoman hold over the eastern Mediterranean. Belgrade was a strategic keystone, sitting at the confluence of the Danube and Sava rivers. It controlled river traffic and the supply lines into Hungary, making it the perfect choke point to dominate Central Europe. From a Western perspective, Mehmed was motivated by greed and expansion. But from the Ottoman side, this campaign was a continuation of the Gaza ideal, the expansion of religious and political authority. And this time he was determined to succeed where earlier campaigns had failed. Mehmed didn't leave anything to chance. He spent months preparing, gathering men, guns, and ships for what he believed would be a decisive victory. The numbers alone are staggering. Mehmed called up what some sources claim to be as many as 100,000 troops, though modern historians generally estimate 40,000 to 60,000 battle-ready soldiers. These were disciplined professionals led by the elite janissaries, infamous for their skill, discipline, and early use of matchlock firearms. They were not only the backbone of the Ottoman infantry, but also the shock troops for breaking walls, just as they had at Constantinople. Then there was the artillery. Mehmed brought around 300 cannons, including 22 massive bombards, the kind that had pulverized Constantinople's ancient walls. He even established foundries in Serbia to maintain and repair these weapons on site. And it wasn't just the land forces. He had a fleet of anywhere from 21 to 200 ships to control the Danube and Sava, cutting Belgrade off from reinforcements or supplies. Everything about this campaign screamed overwhelming force, a test of Ottoman military theory combining artillery, elite infantry, and river control. Mehmed II's strategy was audacious, but it was based on logic. If Constantinople could fall to cannons, why not Belgrade? On the other side, Hungary was a different story. The kingdom was fractured. Internal politics were a mess, and the nobility was more afraid of Hunyadi's rising influence than of the Ottoman army. Pope Calixtus III understood the gravity of the situation. Constantinople's fall had sent shockwaves across Europe, and he saw Belgrade as the next critical line of defense. The Pope went all in. He called for a new crusade, imposing tight financial measures on the Vatican itself. He auctioned off jewelry, art, and other treasures, squeezed the curial budget, and redirected funds to support the Hungarian front. He even issued edicts like Cum his superioribus annis, calling on all Catholic kingdoms to pray for the defenders. King Ladislaus V had left for Vienna, and most of the Hungarian barons ignored the Pope's call for a crusade. Into this chaos stepped John Hunyadi, a military genius facing the impossible task of holding the line almost single-handedly. Hunyadi had to fund the defense himself. He used personal wealth, limited royal income, and sheer ingenuity to organize the city's fortifications. He raised a professional force of 10,000 to 12,000 men, mostly veteran cavalry and mercenaries, and even assembled a 200-boat flotilla to support river operations. But Hunyadi couldn't be everywhere at once, so he entrusted the actual defense of Belgrade to his brother-in-law, Mihaly Szilágyi, who commanded around 7,000 professional soldiers inside the fortress. Meanwhile, Serbia was caught in an unenviable position. Under despot Đurađ Branković, it was wedged between the Ottoman Empire and Hungary. Forced to walk a tightrope of diplomacy, Branković tried to preserve his country through negotiation. His daughter Mara's marriage to Sultan Murad II gave him leverage, allowing temporary peace agreements. In early 1456, he even signed a 3-year truce with Mehmed II, conceding southern territories to secure the survival of Serbia. Yet, the truce offered no real protection. Mehmed marched his army through Serbian lands en route to Belgrade. A small Serbian force of about 9,000 soldiers attempted to block the advance, but they were decisively defeated on June 18, 1456, leaving the countryside in ruins. The message was clear. Serbia's status as a buffer state could not guarantee safety, and loyalty or neutrality often meant little when facing the Ottomans. Belgrade, or Nandorf Hervar, as it was known, was more than just a walled town. It was a fortress perfectly positioned to control one of the most critical river routes in the region. The town itself sat behind sturdy outer walls, while the central Acropolis, a tall, commanding citadel, housed the main garrison. But while these fortifications were solid, they weren't designed to withstand the latest Ottoman superguns. Those walls that had held back raids for decades were now facing firepower capable of blasting huge breaches within hours. Szilágyi, commanding the garrison of about 7,000 professional soldiers, understood that holding the line wasn't just about standing firm. It was about surviving long enough for Hunyadi's reinforcements to arrive. They couldn't hope to destroy the Ottoman army outright. They had to outlast it. Almost immediately, Mehmed unleashed a relentless bombardment. Imagine hundreds of cannons firing day and night, the ground shaking with every shot. Massive stone balls smashing against the walls, sending dust, debris, and terror into the defenders below. The strategy was straightforward. The walls would eventually crumble if Mehmed could keep the guns firing long enough. It had worked at Constantinople just 3 years earlier, and he fully expected it to work here. The goal was precise: make openings large enough for the elite Janissary troops to surge in and overrun the fortress. Each cannonball that struck, each wall that cracked, created micro-moments of panic inside the city. Yet Szilágyi and his men had trained for this. They returned fire where possible, repaired breaches overnight, and used every trick they could to delay the inevitable. Every hour mattered. But Mehmed wasn't just relying on walls falling under fire. He knew that no fortress survives if it can be resupplied. So he deployed a river fleet on the Danube. Sources vary, but estimates suggest anywhere from 21 to 200 ships. These vessels weren't just symbolic. They were meant to seal off the city completely, preventing Hunyadi's reinforcements from slipping in from the north. Some accounts even suggest chains stretched across the river or ships moored in tight formation, forming a near impenetrable blockade. By cutting off river access, Mehmed added a logistical chokehold on the defenders. Supplies would dwindle, morale would weaken, and starvation could force surrender. It was a classic siege tactic, but executed with precision. Artillery pounding from land, river blockade cutting off reinforcements, and tens of thousands of Ottoman soldiers ready to exploit any breach. For the defenders, every day was a high-stakes balancing act. Hold the walls, repair the damage, ration food, and pray that Hunyadi would arrive before the fortress and its defenders collapsed. By the second week of the siege, the momentum that had seemed so firmly in Mehmed II's favor began to shift dramatically. Two key events would change the course of the battle, turning Belgrade from a fortress on the brink into a bastion capable of holding back one of the most powerful armies in the world. While the fortress endured constant bombardment, John Hunyadi was not idle. After gathering his reinforcements, including his core professional troops and the massive peasant crusader force, He approached Belgrade via the Danube River. But the Ottoman navy was already there, blocking the river and cutting off supplies. Hunyadi, however, was nothing if not bold. He organized a fleet of small river vessels, mostly corvettes and light boats, to take on the much larger Ottoman fleet. Many of the 40 small boats used to maneuver along the rivers were crewed by local Serbs, showing that while the central authorities sought to avoid confrontation, ordinary people still participated in resisting the Ottomans. It was a subtle but meaningful contribution that helped sustain the defense of Belgrade. On July 14th, Hunyadi launched a sudden, daring attack. What followed was a 5-hour clash of wood, iron, and cannon fire. Hunyadi's nimble ships darted between the massive Ottoman galleys, ramming where possible, boarding and firing with precision. By the end of the day, the results were staggering. 3 large Ottoman galleys sunk, and another 20 to 24 smaller ships captured. This was more than just a tactical victory, it was a lifeline. By breaking the blockade, Hunyadi was able to ferry 10,000 to 12,000 professional soldiers, along with desperately needed food, ammunition, and supplies directly into the fortress. Belgrade, which had been teetering on the edge of collapse from isolation, was suddenly reinforced and resupplied. The morale boost was enormous. For the first time, the defenders could breathe a little easier, knowing that Ottoman supremacy on the river was not absolute. Mehmed II's assumption that his fleet could completely control the waterways had been shattered, and Hunyadi's nimble, flexible strategy had exploited the inflexibility of the larger Ottoman vessels perfectly. 2 weeks of continuous cannon fire had done what Mehmed hoped. The outer walls of Belgrade were breached, the fortress's defenses were partially crumbled, the streets below littered with rubble, and morale strained under constant bombardment. Seeing an opportunity, Mehmed ordered a full-scale assault on the night of July 21st. The elite janissaries, alongside other Ottoman units, poured through the breaches, capturing parts of the town below the Acropolis. For a moment, it looked as if Mehmed's forces would sweep through the fortress completely. But Hunyadi had anticipated the assault and had prepared a brilliant defensive tactic. Rather than engaging in brutal hand-to-hand fighting in the shattered streets, a recipe for chaos and heavy losses, he ordered his soldiers to set fire to flammable materials, tar-soaked wood, resin, and other combustibles. These were thrown into the areas the Ottomans had taken, creating a sudden wall of fire. The flames spread quickly, cutting off the janissaries inside from reinforcements and causing chaos among the attackers. The result was devastating. The discipline and superior numbers of the janissaries became a liability in the narrow, fire-filled streets. Many were killed outright, others trapped and forced into disorganized combat. The losses suffered that night were critical. The elite core of Mehmed's army was weakened, and their ability to respond effectively the next day was severely diminished. By the end of the second week, the siege had entered a new and unpredictable phase. Giovanni da Capistrano, a Franciscan monk sent by the Pope to rally volunteers, had gathered an enormous army of 30,000 to 60,000 people, farmers, students, priests, and ordinary townsfolk, all driven by religious zeal. They called themselves the Crusati, the cross-bearers. And while most had no military experience, their enthusiasm was contagious. Many carried only makeshift weapons, hoes, flails, slings, even rosaries. But they were willing to confront one of the most formidable armies in the world. This force was a double-edged sword. Their sheer numbers and morale were critical for the defense, but their lack of discipline posed serious risks. That morning, an unexpected event forced the issue. Thousands of the peasant crusaders surged across the Sava River. Acting without orders, Hunyadi's strict instructions forbidding such action were ignored, as men, women, students, and pilgrims, armed with whatever they could grab, harassed Ottoman positions, moving in a chaotic but relentless wave. Friar Giovanni da Capistrano, who had inspired these men with religious fervor, initially tried to get them back under control. But confronted with about 2,000 determined, uncontrollable peasants, he made a split-second decision. Instead of restraining them, he led them forward, rallying them with cries of faith and purpose. This unexpected, seemingly undisciplined charge swept toward the rear of the Ottoman lines, creating absolute tactical surprise. The effect was immediate. Ottoman forces, particularly the elite Sipahi cavalry, were pulled away from their defensive positions to deal with this sudden disruption. In doing so, they inadvertently exposed Mehmed II's main artillery camp, the very heart of the Ottoman siege machinery. What had begun as a disorderly peasant sortie had now created a decisive opportunity. John Hunyadi, ever alert to battlefield opportunity, recognized the opening immediately. He turned what seemed like a breakdown in discipline into a decisive advantage. Leading his 10,000 to 12,000 professional soldiers, Hunyadi launched a direct assault on the Ottoman camp. His primary objective: capture the massive cannons that had been raining destruction on Belgrade for weeks. The assault was perfectly timed. Ottoman soldiers, distracted and thrown into confusion by Capistrano's peasant charge, were attacked simultaneously from two directions. Hunyadi's troops stormed the artillery positions, overwhelming the defenders and seizing the guns. The very firepower that had made the fortress seem doomed now became a liability to its owners. Belgrade became one of those rare cases in military history where professional strategy and religious fervor combined to defeat a larger, better-equipped force. The papacy's financial support and the peasants' enthusiasm compensated for the absence of Western European unity. In essence, the siege highlighted Europe's failure to organize collectively while simultaneously showcasing how individual leadership and conviction could tip the scales. The results were catastrophic for the Ottoman army. Despite desperate efforts by 5,000 Janissary guards to hold the line and retake the artillery, they failed. Hasan Ağa, the Janissary commander, was killed in the fighting, leaving the elite corps leaderless at a critical moment. Sultan Mehmed II himself, determined to salvage the campaign, personally entered the fray, famously killing a Hungarian knight in single combat. But even he could not escape the tide of chaos. He was struck by an arrow in the thigh and rendered unconscious. With the Sultan incapacitated, the Ottoman command structure collapsed almost instantly. The army had been highly centralized around the Sultan's leadership, and with him down, morale disintegrated. Panic spread through the ranks, and what had started as a tactical defeat became a full-scale rout. Under the cover of night, the Ottoman forces retreated in haste, taking with them around 140 horse-drawn wagons carrying the wounded, but abandoning their artillery and many supplies. Belgrade was finally relieved on July 22, 1456. The siege had ended in a spectacular failure for Mehmed II, the first major defeat he suffered after the conquest of Constantinople just 3 years earlier. What had seemed like inevitable Ottoman victory had been overturned by a combination of bold leadership, opportunistic strategy, and the unpredictable courage of ordinary men. It was a battle that would be remembered not just for its numbers or weaponry, but for the sheer drama of its final day. A day when chaos became a weapon, and the courage of the few turned the tide against one of history's most feared conquerors. In the short term, the victory stabilized Hungary's southern border. Mehmed II was forced to redirect his ambitions elsewhere. And crucially, the Ottomans did not launch another major attack into Hungary for nearly 70 years, until the infamous Battle of Mohacs in 1526. That 7-decade pause created what some historians call a golden window, allowing Western Europe to continue flourishing during the Renaissance and consolidate politically and economically. Had Belgrade fallen in 1456, the pressure on Vienna and other Western cities would have come much sooner, potentially reshaping the political map of Central Europe. Yet in the long run, the Ottoman Empire remained a rising power. The struggle between the Ottomans and European powers would continue for centuries, making Belgrade's victory a delay rather than a solution. The magnitude of Belgrade's victory quickly gave rise to legend and debate. Disputes over credit were common. Both Hunyadi and Capistrano wrote letters claiming primary responsibility. The papacy and other Western European officials tended to emphasize Capistrano's role, highlighting the fervor of the peasant crusaders. This narrative not only underscored divine intervention, but also allowed European rulers to downplay their own lack of involvement, especially the reluctance of professional armies to come to Belgrade's aid. Meanwhile, personal heroism became legendary. Tales circulated of knights like Titus Jugovics, who supposedly grabbed an Ottoman soldier attempting to plant the Sultan's flag before both plunged from the wall. Later, historians have largely determined these stories were fabrications or embellishments intended for propaganda and nationalistic purposes. Analyzing primary sources, including Ottoman chronicles, papal letters, and correspondence from Hunyadi and Capistrano, reveals the truth. The victory was a combination of several factors. First, the stalwart defense of Silagi and the garrison held the fortress through relentless bombardment. Second, Hunyadi's genius in both the river battle and exploiting battlefield chaos turned tactical opportunities into decisive advantages. Finally, the religious zeal of Capistrano's peasant army, though chaotic, created the tactical disruption necessary for Hunyadi's counterattack to succeed. It was not a single hero, but a convergence of leadership, strategy, and fervor that saved Belgrade. Tragically, neither of the central figures lived long enough to enjoy the fruits of their victory. John Hunyadi succumbed to the plague on August 11, 1456, barely 3 weeks after the siege ended. Friar Giovanni da Capistrano also died of the plague a few months later on October 23, 1456. Their deaths created a serious power vacuum in Hungary. The kingdom could not immediately capitalize on its strategic advantage, nor could it organize a follow-up crusade or consolidate political structures to prepare for a prolonged struggle with the Ottomans. Hunyadi's legacy would continue indirectly through his son Matthias Corvinus, who eventually became King of Hungary and carried forward his father's vision of resistance. One of the most enduring cultural legacies of Belgrade's victory is the ritual of ringing the noon bell in Catholic churches worldwide. Initially, Pope Calixtus III had ordered the bells to ring at noon to encourage prayers for the soldiers defending Belgrade. Because news of the victory on July 22nd often reached towns before the original order could be enacted, the ritual evolved into a celebration of triumph rather than merely a call for prayer. The Pope officially amended the order to commemorate the victory, transforming the noon bell into a daily reminder of the courage and sacrifice of Hunyadi, Capistrano, and their forces. Today, every chime resonates as a subtle echo of a battle that temporarily halted the Ottoman advance and secured a moment of hope for Europe. And that's how 19 days of courage, strategy, and sheer determination turned Belgrade into an unbreakable fortress, and in doing so changed the course of European history. If you loved uncovering the clever tactics, daring leadership, and human stories behind this epic siege, make sure to like this video and share it with anyone who loves history. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story from heroic history, where we dig beneath the surface of battles, empires, and the people who shaped them. And I want to hear from you. What moment in history blew your mind with its strategy or courage? Drop it in the comments below. I'll be reading and replying. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next epic story tomorrow.